isolated in North America right now. My friends in Australia, people in Europe, they're already seeing a lot of Chinese brands. Polestar is effectively Chinese, even though not officially. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that it's a little bit of a hidden thing, but anyway, I think that we are going to see a massive influx of Chinese vehicles. No matter what the political situation is in the US and Canada and everything, it could slow it down a little bit, could speed it up, but it's kind of inevitable. It's like a giant wave that's coming towards us.
And very much already taking place in Europe, as you described. It's pretty commonplace to see Chinese brands on the road in the UK now. Sandy, of course, there's pretty major news in Canada in the recent weeks regarding a gigantic tariff on Chinese EVs. How do you feel about that?
Well, if I'm elected, no. Okay, so I don't really care for the current prime minister, and I didn't like his dad either. So it's probably best that I tiptoe around that one. But I will tell you that the people who say that they're going to do these giant tariffs and they're going to show them who's boss, you do know that there's billions of people in China, and they have all of the techniques and technologies that we need, and they have most of the materials that they're going to need. And when you go and try and or let me rephrase that, if you kick an elephant in the leg, chances are good you're going to get crushed. And crushed is what's going to happen no matter who says what. The only way that you could try and keep the Chinese out is if the United States killed the free trade agreement and then put a great big giant wall around the US. A big giant wall that'll keep everything out. And if they do that, isolationism hasn't really worked out in the past for anybody, and you ultimately lose. Here's the deal, and again, I'm all that I'll give a rat's ass. So I know for sure that right now Mexico is overflowing with investment from Chinese companies. Okay, if Canada wants to hold the line, well, that's good. I don't know when the next election is, but hopefully it's soon. Because the more you try, somebody once told me a long time ago, if you want to find out what happens when you want to try and crush an idea, put a mashed potatoes in the middle of your hand. And the more you squeeze, the more you lose. So, does that answer the question? Without going right out and mentioning any names?
It certainly does. It's an extremely complicated problem, right? You can certainly see why governments would want to try and give their own local car brands a fighting chance against the kind of superpower that is Chinese car brands, sort of under one umbrella. But equally, as you quite rightly pointed out, guess who does all the batteries that go into all the different brands' cars? Guess who does all the refining for all the batteries that goes into everyone's electric cars? And by the way, brands like Mercedes massively rely on China for business, right? They're one of the big brands that import like luxury European and American goods. So they might just put a tariff of their own back on, and that would make it quite complicated.
It might be worth even pointing out that Mercedes and other companies like that have been very much at the forefront of saying, please don't do these tariffs, because they know which side of the bread their butter is on, whatever.
Quite. All right, we'll stick a pin in that for the time being. I want to get back to the thing that the panel is actually about. So it's always a good sign of a good panel when you get sidetracked. Back to the brands that we think are going to be really